Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. So I went to the Unite the Kingdom rally organised by Tommy 10 Names and I interviewed some people and they were all just so lovely, as you can see.
Why don't you fuck off? Idiots like you standing out here with this silly fluffy piece of shit, I'm talking shit and trying to instigate violence.
Go away. Go away. Go away.
Okay.
Get out of here.
I'll see what happens.
Seriously though, I was genuinely not sure if I'd come back alive because the Venn diagram of people who would show up to a Tommy R rally and those who would go hunting ethnic minorities during the summer riots of 2024, if it's not a circle, it's definitely a circle within a circle. And even though I've been to events like this before, a bunch of them, especially around Brexit, I have the advantage of knowing that I'm a big guy who can take care of himself. But I snapped my Achilles completely in half in July last year, so I couldn't walk for a lot of that, let alone defend myself. I still can't really run, but I can technically fight, which is why I was genuinely scared going there by myself as a lone black guy in a sea of Tommy R supporters, because it would be literally me versus thousands of people. And with my Achilles still not properly working, I wouldn't have the ability to run away, so it kind of reminds me of that meme.
You just triggered my fight or flight response, and I am a flightless bird.
And even though I'm not really a household name just yet, I'm still recognizable, especially among these kinds of people. And so the first person I tried to interview said no because he recognized me, and he even stopped me interviewing the next person.
What side do you on?
Don't speak to him, mate. He's a racist. He don't like white people.
Okay.
Chip on his shoulder.
Okay. But here's the first interview. I jumped straight to the fact that if you show up to a march organized, fronted, and hosted by Tommy 10 Names, it means you're okay with racism and bigotry.
Why are you all here?
Unity.
Having a good time, meeting loads of different people.
Yeah.
And why do you feel that Tommy Robinson represents unity?
We're not saying that Tommy. People need to get this right. Tommy is one of the arrangers of this march.
Okay.
He's not the arranger.
You see how he's immediately trying to distance his presence at that march from yaxley-lennon, because deep down he knows that Tommy does not represent unity.
But when you say that if somebody is the organizer of an event, people will often associate those who turn up to the event with the values of the person that's organized the event.
Well, maybe so. I've watched hours of Tommy Robinson and I can't say I've ever heard him say anything racist.
He said once, you might think these are British Muslims in these
you might have
houses,
British Muslims,
but they're
they
not.
are enemy
combatants
combatants in these houses.
who
Want to
maim
kill you, maim
destroy
you, and destroy.
Yeah.
So that was the message he said about all British Muslims.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that brings unity?
Whether it brings unity or not, but it's not racist. I mean, there's nothing racist about that.
So a tacit acknowledgement that that is not bringing us together, and secondly, he's trying to get off on the technicality that it's not technically racism, it's Islamophobia. But there are two problems with that. When Tommy Robinson was standing outside those houses, he didn't know if the people in those houses actually followed the religion of Islam. The only common denominator would be that they were brown, which makes it racism. Second of all, while Islamophobia in itself isn't technically racism, the way it plays out is almost always racist. For example, the Sikh woman who was recently raped in Birmingham because the guy thought she was a Muslim. Islamophobes aren't stopping to ask you how closely you follow the Quran before they commit their acts of hatred. They just see a brown person and go off.
About calling all British Muslims enemy combatants?
He didn't call all British Muslims.
Well, he stood in a neighbourhood that had just random people and said, these are British Muslims in these houses, they're enemy combatants.
Yeah.
So that basically applies to anybody who's a British Muslim.
Well, maybe that might have got taken out of context.
Next question. How do the people at these far-right rallies define patriotism?
Who would you want to be in power right now?
Who would I want to be in power?
Yeah.
Nigel Farage.
Nigel Farage. Why?
Because I think he's patriotic, he loves the British country, and I think he's a leader.
What is the only policy Nigel Farage has ever made happen in the UK?
Well, he hasn't, has he? Apart from Brexit.
Well, Brexit, yeah. And Nigel Farage said, we haven't benefited economically from Brexit. He said, everything from fisheries to financial services is probably more difficult now than it was. So he pushed for 27 years for something that he himself says has damaged this country. Is that what you would call patriotism?
He pushed for something, and the people who were left to actually carry out that and carry out Brexit didn't do the job that they were supposed to do.
But he supported them.
Who? The Tories?
Nigel Farage stood down 319 Reform Brexit Party candidates to help Boris Johnson get his majority in order to deliver this specific version of Brexit.
And he didn't deliver, did he?
But no, this is the version of Brexit he supported.
No, I don't think it is.
I mean, it literally is. Boris Johnson negotiated the Brexit deal in 2019. Nigel Farage saw it, said it was crap, but then still supported Boris Johnson to deliver that specific version of Brexit.
That's why I think he's come back in, because he wants to finish it. He wants to make it happen how it should have been.
But it's been like 10 years, and the end result of what he's pushed for so far has been damage to this country.
No, I don't think it has. I don't think it's been damaged.
He says it has. He says it's damaged the country.
You know in the movies where the cult leader eventually admits, actually I was never a god, but their followers refuse to admit the truth, and they're like, but you are a god, you promised.
Listen, I gave.
That's what I see when somebody who Nigel Farage convinced that Brexit would make all of our lives better still insists that it must be making our lives better, even when Nigel Farage himself has admitted that it's making our lives worse.
What, the Brexit? Yeah, because it hasn't been done right. It hasn't been done right. We didn't fight for our fishery rights, did we? We didn't fight for. They didn't negotiate proper deals. They didn't come out how it should have been.
But again, that's the deal that Nigel Farage backed in 2019. You are criticizing the actions of the person that you are supporting.
I feel like if we're talking about is somebody patriotic, you would think, have they fought for something that has helped this country? And if he himself is saying that Brexit has hurt this country, can you really call him patriotic?
Well, what is patriotism?
I think it's loving your country, loving the people in your country, wanting the people in your country to have better quality of life, cheaper food, better jobs, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you want to fight for the people of your country to make sure they've got the right things.
Exactly.
Well, I think he's all of that, and he will be. He's got to be given a chance. He's not in the number one spot, is he?
He fought for 27 years for Brexit, and he himself says
he immersed himself in there to find out how it all works, so he could work it, so we could come out of it. We had a referendum vote. That's the way the people voted.
I know what you just heard sounds like absolute nonsense, but I've watched it several times, and the only explanation I can come up with is he's saying that Nigel Farage simply immersed himself in the concept of the EU, but it was really a decision of the people to leave the EU. So it's not Nigel Farage's fault. But again, we started this by me asking him, what's the only policy that Nigel Farage has ever made happen to the UK? And he himself suggested Brexit. But once he's confronted with the fact that even Nigel Farage says Brexit has hurt the UK, suddenly it has nothing to do with him. If you are willing to bend your reality around the idea that your leader has to be a good person, you are in a cult.
If there was somebody if there was some like bad guy who tweeted stuff like kill all white people, something incredibly racist like that, or go to this refuge and burn down the hotels full of white people, would you want your leader cuddling up to that person?
Probably not, no, because it's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, but Lucy Connolly tweeted, burn down the hotels full of bastards.
You can't quote Lucy Connolly on that.
I mean, Nigel Farage cuddled up to her. Don't you think that'd be the same? Like, if you were a brown person looking at that, you feel the same way that you feel about someone saying about white people.
He didn't cuddle up to her.
He literally hugged her.
All right, cuddly that, all right. He'd give her a cuddle, and too right as well, I'd give her a cuddle if she stood here right now.
Again, we've already established that you think that if somebody had said what Lucy Connolly said, but about white people, that would be wrong, and you wouldn't want your leader cuddling up to that person. So you first tried to deny that Nigel Farage ever cuddled up to her, and then when you realized that he did, you then switched to saying, yes, it's absolutely right that he cuddled up to somebody who suggested burning refugees alive. Again, molding your reality around the idea that Nigel Farage has to be a good person.
If you were looking at somebody cuddling up to somebody who said that about white people, you'd think, I don't know if I want to associate with that.
Say that again, sorry.
If somebody had said that about white people, like burn down buildings full of white people, you would be like, I don't know if I can be down with that, because why would you associate with somebody like that? That person is there for
but you're pulling stuff up to me that has been said by people. Lucy Connolly said something, and she pulled her tweet down, and she said afterwards that was wrong.
But of all the 70 million people in the country, not everybody gets to stand on stage with a political leader. Why would you choose that person?
She went through 2 years to get hold of that, and she now knows more about women's prisons and what is going on in women's prisons, and to have a voice. Too right, Lucy Connolly's up there as far as I'm concerned.
But surely of the 70 million people in the country, you could find people to idolise that haven't said, let's go burn people alive.
She said something out of rage.
But that's the reason why she's in the media. Like that, if she hadn't said that, nobody would know her name.
Lots of people in the media because they say things.
Again, it's very clear that I'm not attacking Lucy Connolly. I'm attacking Nigel Farage's decision to celebrate Lucy Connolly because she was a convicted racist. But he thinks that by defending her, he can defend Nigel Farage. So here's the thing. You can see by the way he reacts to my questions, the long pauses, the thinking, that he knows that what I'm saying is correct, especially when the shoe's on the other foot, the white foot. So on the question, is this person racist? The answer is simply yes. Because why hasn't he thought of this before? Like, one of my older family members recently had to cut somebody who they thought was a really good friend out of their life because they used the phrase "eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch an N-word by the toe." Like, that's the version they were taught and they thought it was normal. And there was no malice behind it. This wasn't some active hatred towards black people that she was expressing through this nursery rhyme, but it does mean that she has never once in her life considered the perspective of black people if she's willing to say that sort of stuff. Which means they've never once empathized with black people in general. They only look at things from the white perspective. And for me, that's racist. Because if me pointing out the notion of what if somebody had said what Lucy Connolly said about white people instead is the first time you've ever thought, ooh, that would be quite bad, wouldn't it? It means you've never put yourself in the shoes of a black or brown person seeing somebody be convicted for inciting racial hatred against black and brown people and thought, maybe that person shouldn't be on stage hugging my political leader. Now, spoiler alert, I did also meet somebody at that march who was actually a potentially decent person. Because when I posed the same questions to him, he had the same, that is quite bad, but he also recognized, this is wrong, we should do something about it. But you'll see that that man had a completely different vibe to pretty much everybody else around me. So the ability to really empathize with black and brown people was not in abundant supply at that march. But ultimately, as you'll see in this discussion, the main thing the far right tries to do is to convince you that they are on the side of working class people. And this march was organized by Tommy 10 Names and Danny Tomo. And thanks to Brexit, I've already got Danny Tomo to admit that the Brexit that he was supporting was going to hurt working class people.
So, if the trade barriers come in, we'll be poor for a bit, but it's about sovereignty, it's about the principle.
Absolutely. In the long term, we've been through 2 world wars. We've always come out all right.
And Nigel Farage is constantly talking about cutting taxes for the rich so they have more money and cutting benefits for the poor so they have less money. So we've had the proof that these people are not on the side of working class people for a very long time. And that's why when I talk about the struggles of working class people and how unfair the country is with the people that were at that march, they argue against their own arguments repeatedly.
Discriminate against the British people, that's all I'm saying.
Discriminate against the British people.
Exists, yes.
So
Working tax, people who work hard all their life, and he's basically this government is taxing us to death.
Let's just lock that in before he goes back on it. His top line argument is working people are financially suffering.
Well, for right now, the richest 50 families in the UK have more wealth than the bottom half of the population.
That doesn't mean a thing. Listen, rich people bring they pay for a lot of things in this country, so you can't blame the rich people.
No, but if you're saying that the country is unfair, I'm agreeing with you. The country is incredibly unfair. Like 50 families have more wealth than the bottom 34 million of the country. I agree with you 100% there. So surely if you want to address fairness, that would be where you would start.
Well, can't we have to have a world where we have people that have and people that haven't? And we can't all have.
Why do we have to have a world where people have not?
Because the people that haven't got stuff will aspire to better things. They'll work harder.
But what if we made it so that everybody has enough to live and
that's
and
communism.
That's communism.
How are you going to do that?
But that means that suffering is a natural part of what you want the country. Like surely if you
striving for improvement is a natural part of life.
Both of those men were arguing that the system was financially unfair to working class people at the start. And now they're explicitly arguing that working class people should be part of the have-nots, that they're supposed to suffer so they can strive for better. This is what happens when the working class struggle is linked to people that have no interest in helping the working class.
But there are 13 million people in poverty. Surely we can do a bit better
Where
than that.
are they?
But
Not in this sodding country, there ain't, mate.
13 million
Yeah,
poverty.
Show me.
not.
You don't know what poverty is if you think this is poverty now.
Just so we're keeping score, we started off with him saying that the country is unfair to working people and that they are financially struggling. He says taxed to death, but ultimately he's talking about financial struggle. And so you would assume that if that financial struggle is bad enough for him to show up on a march, that it must be called poverty. But when I point out that the reason for that poverty is that all the money in the UK is hoarded by the super rich, he starts denying that poverty even exists in the UK. Again, when you set out to help working class people, but you follow people who are only out to help the rich, you end up looking super confused.
Well, do you agree that there's a cost of living crisis?
Well, of course there is, and it's caused by these people over here.
Okay, so when we can use it to blame Keir Starmer, suddenly poverty's back on the table.
So what do you want? Do you want to tax the rich people so that we've got none left in this country? and they're the ones who are bringing in the money. Without them, you'd have no benefit system.
No, it's the other way around, because without the benefit system, you wouldn't have the super rich. Because the benefit system is what's keeping working class people from starving to death. Benefits are there because working class people can't afford to live on the wages they're given. So without the benefit system, the workforce of the super rich employers would simply die. That's why the benefit system is often referred to as corporate welfare, because big businesses rely on benefits to keep their workforce alive. Now, I didn't say that yesterday, but I should have done. Instead, I went with this.
This idea that we need the rich, therefore, to help people out of poverty.
Yeah.
But there are people in poverty. So this system isn't working.
It's always been that way, mate. It's never going to change.
So he's accepting that the inequality between the rich and the poor is a problem, but he's pushing back against the idea of actually changing that, because he's been convinced that that's not possible. Now, for this next bit, I am trying to get a point out, but I keep being interrupted. So I'm going to do some editing here and show you the interruptions first, and then what I actually tried to say.
People that work all their life and pay taxes.
I guess what I'm struggling with is...
You're struggling with nothing. You got St. George.
Why
don't you fuck off?
Okay,
You're a white cat.
So how do you...
Mate, go on.
We agree that the country isn't fair. We're talking about how to fix that, and that might be making things a bit more fair, but you're against that.
But how are you going to do that? What do you want? Tell me what your goal is.
Okay, so you empower unions so that the working class people have the ability to demand better wages from the government.
Mate, that's never going to work.
Because Nigel Farage hates the unions. He accused them of being part of a left-wing conspiracy. So he's against the idea of workers working together to demand better wages from their employers. And so, of course, his followers don't want working class people demanding better from their employers either.
How do you plan to help working class people?
By getting off their asses and working.
The idea is you need to get them off their arse to work. There are millions of people who are working but are still on universal credit because their wages simply aren't cut.
Yes, and you know why? And you know why?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Because
We'll come back to him later. He's the only person at that rally who I thought was actually a reasonable person.
you should make it better for the people who are earning less.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we're back to let's help working class people, but he's against taxing the rich to give working class people more money. He's against empowering unions so that working class people can actually earn more money. And so all that's left is screaming at the government and screaming at foreigners.
Because you need higher tax earners, so it drips down into the system.
Okay, but we've had rich people for a very long time and people are still in poverty.
Mate, go away. Go away.
I'll see what happens.
So I give him the definitive argument that trickle-down economics simply doesn't work, because letting rich people get super rich and not pay much tax doesn't automatically help poor people by the money trickling down, because by definition, it hasn't worked, otherwise there wouldn't be 13 million people currently in poverty, and his reaction is to tell me to simply go away. And again, if you're asking, am I calling this person racist? Well, I'm presenting him with multiple options to actually help working class people, and he's rejecting all of them. Instead, he's showing up to far-right rallies to support people like Tommy 10 Names and Nigel Farage. So the idea that these people are just desperate to make things better and that they have no other choice but to turn to the far right is bullshit, because they're presented with other ways. They simply reject them. But to my surprise, that is not all of the people that showed up to that march yesterday, because there was one guy who I was able to talk to like a human being.
I see what you're saying about, obviously, about the rich people and things like that.
Yep.
But we need to remember that, obviously, the people that own these hotels, let's say that, for instance, are also making multi-million pounds. So they are the rich people as well.
Agreed.
So there's people that are getting money from the situation.
I'm going to get him moved. You need to go, bro.
There's people obviously, the government are funding this, or we're funding it as taxpayers. I go to work every day of the week.
So do I.
You know what I mean? Which is, and I find it quite difficult. And I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying about, universal credit, give money on top of wages. I'm one of them people because I don't earn enough. I earn a good wage, but the government says I don't earn enough to live on. But surely we haven't got money as a country to give away. Do you agree?
I agree that there are millions of people who are struggling, and therefore we need to rebalance the country. And given that you've got lots of people, 50 families have more wealth than the bottom half of the population.
So how do we balance? How do we balance? Is all right? So how do we balance the country?
So that's two things. You give workers the ability. You give workers the ability to demand better wages.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And that means strengthening unions so they can actually demand better from their employees.
His officers want to speak to you.
As well as taxing the rich.
Yeah, of course,
Those are the two main things.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
See what I'm talking about? Because that's somebody who genuinely wants to make things better for working class people. Because when he's presented with ideas that will actually help working class people, he jumps on them immediately. Unlike the other people I spoke to who claim to want to help working class people, but they're willing to knowingly make working class people in the UK suffer in order to follow people like Tommy Ten Names and Farage. And I was actually able to discuss race with this guy at the Unite the Kingdom rally, and for the record, he's the one that brought it up.
I'll use the term as a black man now, and obviously you've seen division in the country. People are saying flags are flying for the wrong reasons. How do you see that? You've got that T-shirt on. How do you see that?
So right now, given that it's being set up by Tommy Robinson, like he's largely behind it, and he said, "Look at
racist."
Well, a quote from him is,
He's not racist.
you might think that there are British Muslims living in these houses. They're not. They're enemy combatants who want to kill you, rape you, and destroy you."
That's what they do.
For the record, I can't stress enough the extent to which I was surrounded during this. Because you can hear the guy saying, yeah, that's what Muslims do in the background, but I'm just filming in one direction. So I was tense.
That's what they do.
So, and if you were a Muslim, how would you feel looking at that? Similarly, imagine if there was somebody like a black or brown person who said stuff like, "I reckon people should burn down homes of white people for all I care."
And the mosque.
How would you feel about that person? You wouldn't like that, right?
No, but you need to understand.
So given that Nigel Farage stood on stage with Lucy Connolly after she said it was okay to burn down hotels, you understand why people like me might feel a bit intimidated by that.
Of course, you would do, and I understand that being a man of colour, you would feel that that had come across as.
I'm only asking
that had come across as intimidating. You know what I mean? And I understand that. Some people are making the movement what it shouldn't be or what it should be. You know what I mean?
That is him saying that Nigel Farage is turning his cause into something he doesn't want it to be. Like I've always said that one of the most tragic things about what Nigel Farage did over Brexit was that he claimed to speak for people who did genuinely need real change. Not just because Brexit happened at a time when people had been financially strangled for 6 years via austerity, but our politics had essentially left the entire of North England and huge parts of Wales behind. So there were many people who justifiably felt, this system does not work for me, I need real change. And they looked at Labour and the Tories as being unwilling to deliver that change, and so they turned to people like Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage. And so in the media, these clear racists ended up being the spokespeople for some of the most financially desperate people in the country. And the guy I'm speaking to touches on that.
When you've got BBC, Channel 4, ITV, GB News pushing a narrative, and that's what they do. You know what I mean? So obviously, this illegal migrant thing now is in the limelight. So they don't focus on other things. They just focus primarily. Yes, they just the focus primarily on these.
Immigration.
Yes, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? And,
Agreed.
So he's quite explicitly saying that the right-wing media is corrupting his working class struggle. He would much rather be doing this in a way that wasn't demonizing immigrants. But he's only really been shown working class struggle through a white supremacist lens.
As people having children, especially white people, they're not reproducing because the birth rate has dropped below 1.5% because people can't afford to go. Both parents can't afford to go to work. So you know what I mean? Can't afford to. Both parents have to go to work. So they can't have children.
So I 100% appreciate, and this is the irony of it, because like obviously you might know my background is Brexit. I've watched Nigel Farage literally say, quote, "We haven't benefited economically from Brexit. Everything from financial services to fisheries is more difficult now than it was." So he himself has said that Brexit has made us poor, which makes it harder for white people, for example, to have children because they can't afford to. And then they complain that we need immigration to keep the birth rates up. So he's actually created a vicious circle, which ends up making people turn out to marches like this.
Yeah.
But sir, I really appreciate you taking the time.
See how easy that was? And you can tell by how open he was to the things that I was saying that a couple more conversations with people like me and he's voting green. And this was the frustrating thing that I had during the campaign for a second referendum, because I'd be going to parts of the country that voted heavily for Brexit and having conversations with Brexit voters in the high streets and have the same conversation over and over again. And ultimately, because they were mostly rational people, they would end up supporting a second referendum. But they're not hearing the right arguments, which is why it is our job to have those conversations with as many people as we can reach. Because as you can tell, this man is desperate for community with decent people, but he doesn't have many people like us in his community.
It's not a bad day out, and not everybody supports it, you know what I mean? It's nice to come here and unite.
And I am by no means suggesting that the people at that march were unbalanced, decent people, because the majority of them were like the other people in this video, or just screaming abuse at me. But there is common ground to be found with a tiny minority of them. For example, when it comes to how we fix things.
Is Keir Starmer doing enough? Do you think he's doing enough?
No.
Absolutely not. Yeah, 100%. Who do you think we should have next?
I think I could say Zach Palancy because technically I joined the Greens, but as far as I'm concerned, what we need is actual democracy. That first and foremost.
So do you think Zach Palancy is going to deliver, or do you think he's? Let's be honest. Nigel Farage, Restore Britain, Labour, Zach Palancy, they're all fucking full of shit. They're all full of shit.
So
you know what I mean?
I share your distrust of politicians in general. Because I've been in this long enough to know that people have betrayed me a bunch of times. So I get.
I understand. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I get you. I guess my main thing is, given that there are the main thing that are hurting people is the cost of living, and that's because all the money is hoarded at the top. The rich have too much power. I think anybody that's willing to actually improve the economy, that's what I could get behind.
So how do you believe that we can sort cost of living out as a person? How do you think we should sort that out?
Empower workers to demand better wages. B, tax the rich a bit more. And C, essentially undo Brexit.
But if we're giving money elsewhere, surely there isn't no money to release.
So, I mean, in terms of the notion of these hotels, I agree. If you have people in hotels, that costs too much money.
Do you know how much it costs to keep one migrant in the UK?
Too much. But the point is, if those people were processed quickly and able to actually start working, then they would actually provide for the economy rather than drain the economy.
Do you believe that half of the people that are coming over are economical migrants, or do you think they are actually fleeing? They're fleeing a war-torn country.
Well, the Home Office data shows that about 70% of them are coming from countries like Eritrea, places where there's reasons to run away.
Okay.
The ones coming from Albania, obviously, probably economic migrants.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're coming from a place like Afghanistan, where the Taliban's killing women, then obviously it's fair that you want to leave that.
Yeah. Have we got enough room in the country for all these other people?
I think there are 225,000 unlived-in homes in the UK. We've slowed down the building of homes. I think, given that there are so many empty homes, so many people having second homes, again, it's the rich who are holding all this.
Again, his talking points were straight out of GB News, but he was accepting my responses because he genuinely wanted to know. And we had this moment at the end.
Thank you.
Do you class yourself as British?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Deal. I was born in Darlington.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I was born in Darlington in the northeast of England. I learned to speak, and I moved to Swansea in Wales, then Scotland. So I'm arguably more British than most people.
That'll be a weird one, having a Scottish accent or a Welsh one.
I noticed in your state.
But this last interview was my absolute favorite. Because, hey, do you want to know how to expose the protect our women and girls from brown people lot in less than 2 minutes and prove they don't actually give a shit about women and girls? Enjoy.
I'm here because don't want our daughters and our mothers to get raped by a fucking religion that partly accepts that. But I ain't saying nothing else yet. It's as simple as that.
But there are 80,000 rapes in the UK every single year.
Look up the statistics, brother. You know the statistics.
Yeah, and there are 80,000 in the UK. So let's say we get rid of all the migrants, all the refugees.
I don't care about migrants. I care about illegal.
Okay, all the illegal migrants. Let's say we get rid of all of them. No more illegal migrants for the rest of time. There will still be roughly at least 75,000 rapes.
Exactly. So we have enough going on here without extra.
So let's say we've done that. Will you then campaign against those rapes? And what will you be doing?
I don't care what colour someone is. If they rape someone, they deserve to be in jail.
So what will you be doing about that?
I shouldn't be doing something. These cunts in the neon city.
You've gotten rid of all the migrants, and now it's just the 75,000.
Look them up. Deal with them how we do. We don't need more. That's it.
What are you going to do about it?
Are you trying to get me to say something to make me look like a racist right now?
No, I'm asking. So you are out here right now because you care so much.
I've told you my answer. No rape.
You're out here right now.
No matter what the religion, colour, whatever.
You're out here right now.
Simple message.
Sir,
no rape.
You're out here right now because you care about protecting women and girls from illegal migrants. But once they're gone, those women and girls are still going to be raped. So what are you going to do about that?
Every country has criminals. Every single country.
So you're going to accept
We've got enough as it is. We don't need more people.
So you're going to accept the fact that there's 75.
Get rid of them and then deal with our own problems.
So, but what you're saying to me is
you're trying to make me look racist.
No. But all you have to say right now is
I'm going to give a fuck what any of you lot think. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I don't need to break it down anymore. We don't need extra crime here. Simple as that.
All you have to say is, I'm going to fight
people.
against the hatred against women, against violence against women.
Are you Islamic?
No. All you have to say is, I'm going to campaign.
Fuck are you doing
Are you going to campaign against violence against women?
Well, campaign against idiots like you standing out here with this silly, fluffy piece of shit, bruv, talking shit and trying to instigate violence.
Absolute cinema. Because the irony is, he was accusing me of trying to make him say something that would make him look racist. But I was literally trying to get him to say something that would prove that he wasn't just a racist. I was trying to get him to show that he actually cared about the safety of women and girls. Because I literally say, all you have to say is, I will campaign against violence of women and girls, even if there aren't these brown people. But bro folded under literally negative pressure. Because I didn't mention race. I didn't call him racist. He simply realized that if he's not willing to combat violence against women when it's not black and brown people doing it, and he's only willing to combat violence against women if it's black and brown people doing it, then this can't be about keeping women safe. It can only be about his feelings about black and brown people. And so it's even more ironic that he was accusing me of calling him racist and accusing me of inciting violence, while he was the one effectively calling himself racist and getting aggressive at the end. And his argument of every country has its crime means he's accepting 80,000 rapes is simply a fact of life that he doesn't want to change. Because it would mean going against the kind of sexist, dude bro, right-wing ideology that his entire thing is based on. And I can't stress enough, if you make the conversation around protecting women within the space of the UK media exclusively about black and brown assailants, then you are effectively providing cover and distraction away from the vast majority of attacks against women. You are literally making women less safe. And when this guy realized that, his response was to make fun of the shape of my microphone. So putting aside a tiny minority at this march, the majority of them were simply not good people because they were given options for ways to make things better and they reject them. They instead choose to show up for the worst people in the country. Now, it's important to remember that while the conversations I just showed you varied massively between the guy who was actually willing to discuss things with me as a human being and the other lot, I was still the same guy in all of those conversations. So this stuff that I say, it does work with the people that are willing and able to hear it. So when I say that you need to be having conversations with people about the threat that Nigel Farage poses to working class people, about the damage he's already done about Brexit, about the fact that things can get better if we make this country more equal, about how to actually make women safe. I say that because it is possible to make a difference. Not with all of them, clearly, but with some. Because yes, the threat is real.
I would stop Islam, I would reverse, I would have remigration. It's time for many Muslims to leave this country if they're not going to be
But via a fair voting system, taxing the rich, rejoining the EU, having better education in schools, or on issues like misogyny, the hope is real too. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.